All right, we need to look at one very, very simple thing. When we're looking at politics, we're looking at the world around us and all the anger and vitriol that's been going on. The most important thing to do at that point is to take a step back and soak in the big picture around that subject. We have people that are just fear mongering on every single level that's out there. We have the whole world is racist. Everybody with a shield is dirty cop. Everybody in the FBI is dirty. The DOJ is dirty because the person I voted for is being attacked. When in fact, they're probably being investigated for something that they did. When you have the racist police officers, that's not the entire force. That's a small handful that do really, really dirty, mean stuff and should be punished. But it doesn't mean everybody with a badge is that person. It doesn't mean the FBI agents, if there are some that are found as bad, that they're not the entire force. We need these people to do their jobs. We need these people to keep the balance. We even need the government to keep stuff in line. We just need people to be doing their jobs the correct, the ethical, and the right way. That is the problem, because there are people in there that are taking advantage of being a politician. There are bad cops that are racist cops that look for any excuse to do something racist or, over the top to anybody at any time. There was just an officer a tragedy how a rookie officer drove his car into a lake or a river or something like that with a suspect handcuffed to the seat behind him. And it was his first arrest, so he's on the phone texting his wife about this woman that he arrested that was arguing too loud with somebody. Nothing, barely a misdemeanor, disturbing the peace type stuff. Locked up in the back seat, and he's texting, and he ended up going off into it, and she drowned, and he drowned. His body was found a couple days later, but she was a mom, and the media paints it as, let's lift up this police officer. And the reason I bring that up is because their media spin there is ridiculous. This is a situation where there's no reason for them to be texting and bragging about his first arrest and all that other stuff, and her being chained to the back of the car in the first place for arguing too loud in a fight. That's usually held for like violent people, stuff like that. But anyway, we are in such a state of anger towards each other, and it's manipulated. It's carefully scripted and manipulated by the big media companies to perpetuate this never-ending waterfall of new things to be paranoid about. The DOJ is attacking and investigating and prosecuting this particular politician, so that has to be their concerted effort with the other side as a conspiracy to get together and stop this person from running because it's a political adversary, and that's the only reason for it. And he said fake news from day one, and see, he was right, Trump was right about everything, when in fact, if we pull back from that and we look at the big picture, we have a man with a lot of skeletons in his pocket. The microscope that comes with running for president unleashed those skeletons. This man needed to come up with something that will blanket every single accusation that he knew was going to come, because he knew he has been a con man his entire freaking life. So they carefully manipulate the padding around this product named Donald Trump that could deflect anything that anyone comes up with to say against him. And fake news was born. And it's repeated. Just like every other political lie, repeated. BLM, repeated, or negative, repeated. The J6 people were just protesting. Anybody with 2 cents of logic can look at what went on J6 on the videos, on the live stream. That was not protesting. Period. End of discussion. It doesn't matter what party's involved. It doesn't matter what person tells you that it was just a peaceful protest. But if anyone else did that stuff, broke into a federal building and broke windows, they would be arrested and prosecuted. Period. End of discussion. On any day of the week. On any day of the week. So how much of it is actually... Yeah, so no matter which way you look at it, it is being manipulated and force-fed to people who are tad bit uneducated and very, very gullible, and at the same time stirring all this anger against minorities, against there's rapists and there's thieves and murderers and M13 and coming in from the border, and then we have the Middle Easterners, so there's that ban. We've got to keep all the Middle Easterners out, and everybody's a terrorist, and we get the worst of the worst coming in from all these countries, and they're all here to take our jobs and all this other stuff, and nothing but negative and fear. Nothing but fear. Just to keep people under control, just so they're easier to manipulate. When you keep them scared psychologically, they are easier to manipulate. If they are more uneducated than the other people you're talking to, guess what? Those are the people who are going to follow you through fire. Those are the people who are not going to care what you say and how much bullshit comes out your mouth. More than anything, those are the people who will vote for you after you shoot somebody on TV in the middle of Fifth Avenue. It's a manipulation, and it's done on purpose. We all need to take our political beliefs and our anger and our vitriol and back up. And if we see something like, we're told there's thousands of people every day coming through the border, and we're showing these pictures of these seas of people, and then a whole bunch of people show up at the border to watch this massive invasion that we have. They're ready to fight. They drove all the way down there with their big pickup trucks and the huge flags flying, Trump with the Rambo guns and the Superman muscles, and they get down to the border and there's nothing. Nothing. No sea of people, nothing. They're told when Trump was in office, you've got all this stuff done, and if Trump was still there wouldn't be these problems. But you know what? The last year plus of Trump being in office, there was over 4,000 encounters a day at the border, or 4,000 a day, which is exactly what Joe Biden said he would make sure it stays at with this new border bill. But the stuff that everyone's been force-fed shows otherwise. It's a carefully manipulated show. It is the politics and the government trying very, very hard to, one way or another on both sides of the aisle, color a little bit outside the lines. Now, we need to understand which side does it more, which side does it maliciously, and which side banks on it to get their next elections their way. All we need to do is take responsibility for our votes, for our perspectives, and recognize that most of what we're seeing is probably bullshit. And if we hear a narrative pushed over and over and over again that does not sound logical at all, it's probably because it's untrue, or it's 5%, 10% true. If you really want to get over and beyond yourselves and actually dig into the facts versus the fiction, do your research. That's what you need to do. You need to make sure that research and that understanding is there all the way across the board. Because the narratives that are being painted for everybody are for one purpose, and that purpose is to keep everybody under control. So we have 75% of the traffic on our social media during the Super Bowl being bots. 75%. Affecting the flow of information, purposely trying to deflect the flow of information so nobody learns more than they want them to. That's big business, and that's what we live in. So we need to rely on logic. We need to rely on the big picture. We need to separate ourselves from our vote and recognize this is for this country, not our party. So wake up and educate. Be diligent. Stay educated, and be kind, because we are all in this together. The rest is a facade.